We're live. Welcome
Live.
back. Another episode of Gen X YZ. How many episodes is this, you guys?
I think this is episode 30 something.
Time flies.
We
when
don't
I
know.
don't keep track.
But we have fun, and I'm Pete. I'm the Gen Xer.
And I'm Peter. I'm the Gen Y or the millennial.
Give him the
What,
boo,
nothing?
Ashley.
Nothing? You got nothing? Okay.
I'm Ashley. I'm the Gen Z.
We like Gen Z. Nobody likes millennials. That's where we are. We know
Not
we
sure
know
how we
right?
got to this level, but it's fine. I'm used to it. So.
But we of course love the millennials, really. But welcome back, you guys. This is going to be an episode where I think maybe we can not agree so much, because we're going to really talk about the difference in our generations and how we use and view social channels for business. So not the most controversial thing we could talk about, but there's
I'm sure we are into social channels in life as well as is typical of us. So
there is. So what prompted this for me, I suggested we talk about this topic this week, is our most recent viral video on TikTok. Now, TikTok is a channel, so let's just start with that one.
Please explain what TikTok is for the Gen Zers out there. That I'm sure
geez, Ashley, explain TikTok. I didn't think we'd have to start there, but why not?
It started off kind of like Vine. Do you guys
Wasn't
know
it Musical.ly before? Wasn't that what it was called?
It was Musical.ly before, so people would just
I knew that.
dance and lip sync. That was actually a trivia question that I had once. But it's kind of like Vine in a weird way. It was Musical.ly, then it started to evolve more, then it started becoming more like vlogs, influencers, mom talk. It just started to become this wide range of like a community, and then it started to lead more into becoming like a Google search engine. You can find any answer you have on there. Basically, there's a video of someone talking about it on there. And now it's taken a huge shift, and a lot of people are actually unhappy about it. It's become like a huge advertisement thing. People can sell their products, do videos of their products, and it gets pushed out into people's For You page. And they're not happy about that because, they want to see videos that they like and not get put
Social media and not just another like advertising platform.
Mm-hmm.
So the controversy, there's a big controversy with TikTok that exists politically, because it's Chinese owned, and there's a lot of folks in government, probably non-government as well, who really don't want that app being so prevalent here in the US because it's Chinese owned, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind that. Whether they're true or not, I haven't really investigated, haven't spent much time on it. But what we do know is that it is a very, very popular app. There is significant usage. So as long as it exists, my perspective is it's a powerful business tool. And whether there's propaganda that's shared, it's pushed out by the Chinese government, who knows? But that's not how we use it. That's not what I think most people are using it for or thinking of it as. But what's your take on that? I mean, I will say that's my generation pushing the TikTok is a dangerous tool narrative.
I feel like millennials are kind of in that camp as well. Like, not necessarily because it's dangerous because of, I don't know, being owned by the Chinese government versus being in the US, where, by the way, for those of you out there, if you think that like they can't get all your Facebook data, like how that's different, I don't know. But I think it's more because of how addictive it is. Like, that's why like the millennials that I know are like, whoa, like because it's very useful. But it's so easy to be like, all right, I just need to learn how to make, spaghetti. I'm gonna watch it. And then an hour later, you're like, why am I learning how you shear a sheep? Like, you go down this like rabbit hole, and you're like, I wanted to learn one thing. I wanted to like get in and get out, and it's because they want you on their platform. It's very hard. So that's the kind of ideology I see with a lot of maybe the older millennials. Maybe the younger ones are less like that.
Yep. So let's ask this real quick, and someone kind of answered for us already. What year is Gen Z? An answer, Edward beat us to it. 1997 to 2012, and then that's where the millennials pick up, of course. And the millennials go into what, about like
It's like early 80s.
96, 97.
Yeah, so my brother's the youngest millennial, and he's born in the end of '96. So he's I call him Gen Z, but he's technically millennial. And then so it's 96 down to like 83, 82.
Or I think even 80. I think maybe 80.
That's
And there,
where
look,
the
there's no one perfect answer for this. But then we all know everyone's favorite generation comes next, and I think that's like 1965 to 1980. Everyone loves.
I view it as like when you were a child. Like you're a millennial if you were a child growing up in the 90s. Like that's if
There you go. That's a good round thing. And then there's a new generation. Gen Z is already like
Alpha.
being pushed out, right?
Yeah, Gen Alpha is the next one. So.
Gen Alpha. So we're starting over again. So that controversy exists. We know it. We're not really too interested in that. But if you're watching right now, let us know how you use these channels as they come up. Are you a TikTok user? And we'd love to know what generation you're from if you want to share that. But what caught my attention this week was a viral video that we had created by Ashley, of course. And it's taken off. And it's a Star Wars themed video. And so you naturally think, wow, that's going to attract a male audience, right? I mean, I think that sort of makes sense. This is a generalization, but so be it. And what has been so surprising to me is what a powerful job TikTok has done of pushing the content in this particular case out to the right age group and the gender who really would want it. So TikTok has what they call a For You page or For You part of their algorithm, right? Ashley, am I saying it correctly? Where they push the content that they think you want to see. And that's really this particular meme has resonated with males. 85% here. I'll show the stats real quick. Males who are in their 30s, and that is exactly who this was aimed for. So
there you go. Watch it and be like, this resonates with me. This feels like it was written for me.
Yep. So this is a couple days ago. It's on its way to 1 million views now, and what this shows is the number of views, likes, comments, shares, and then bookmarks, right? So it's a popular video. And then this is some of the demographics I really wanted to talk about. 85% male. Is that a surprise to you, Ashley, given that most of our previous videos, especially the ones that went viral, they were almost all female. And this has been the polar opposite. So that's what jumped out at me.
I mean, I guess males are just big Star Wars fans.
It's because they had Darth Vader in it, so that's why.
Yeah. And maybe again, it had something to do with I did like a Star Wars hashtag. Maybe a lot of males, look stuff up regarding Star Wars, and that might have attracted that. Versus, I don't think I can imagine a female. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I can imagine a female just looking up Star Wars on TikTok.
I'm sure they exist, right? But
I know plenty of Star Wars females, especially now that it's owned by Disney.
That's right. Now here was the bigger one. This one, I was impressed with TikTok's ability to push the content to its intended audience. But the meme in this, the joke was because we find a lot of truth and humor that we apply on TikTok with our meme videos. And this one was aimed at people in their mid-30s and making a joke about being stuck there, and Darth Vader saying, "It's too late for me, son," or whatever Darth Vader said, as far as going back to out of the dark side. But look at these age groups. These aren't kids.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't kids at all. I mean, the percentages are undeniable. So I guess that's how I wanted to kind of kick this off, is that people think TikTok is an app for kids. Our experience has proven that wrong.
It might have been originally, but that's quickly becoming more and more people are giving over to the dark side. And they're like, well, let me see what this is all about, and then they just never leave.
So if you're listening right now, let us know. Are you a TikTok user? Does that surprise you what we just talked about, or are you someone that already knew it wasn't an app just for kids?
I mean, again, I think it's evolved and has become an app that's universally good for everybody or useful for everybody. I see like there's a man in his 70s giving advice, and he's living out in nature, and like other people in their 70s are commenting. So it's like, again, it's just like such a big world that it's becoming with several different small communities. And we just managed to tap into that one. So it's like something to think about, I guess, with the whole algorithm is how to tap into those several communities and lure them to kind of join yours.
I don't think it's it's not a mistake that like TikTok is like shifting to like a broader audience beyond. Now, I think still Gen Z is probably by far the biggest users of it. That's not to say there aren't huge groups of others.
Are you sure it's not millennials?
Millennials being the biggest users of TikTok? I don't think so. I still think it's, you know, generally younger people.
Well, it's funny.
Every person I know that's like all about, like knows a lot about it is like in their mid-20s and under. So,
I feel like, sorry, all the videos I get on my For You page, I feel like they're all millennials.
that's because you're trying to, you know, send Star Wars memes to millennials. So now TikTok's confused and thinks you're a millennial.
I'm with Peter, though. I think it's a very much a situation where by the younger you are, the more, the greater the chance you're going to be a TikTok user. I think my generation, or the boomers older than me, not using TikTok very much.
You guys use Clapper.
I get my TikToks from Instagram like an adult. I get my stuff trickle down
Like an adult. Okay, so TikTok, right? No one's really jumping in on this. Maybe no one's that interested in TikTok, but not a lot of kids on LinkedIn. Not at this hour anyway. Maybe not at any hour. So not a lot of feedback on TikTok usage. So let's move on to, I think, what is the next closest app, which is YouTube. And so the question I'll have for you, Peter, is why would you use YouTube versus TikTok?
I don't even view YouTube, by the way, as a social media. I know that it is, but like, if YouTube is a video platform, and I use it for if I need to learn how to do something, or, you know, watch something, or YouTube TV is, you know, there's people now making like content and stuff on it. But I know that there are shorts, but I don't really like spend too much time like on them. Instagram Reels, I guess, is the equivalent that I would probably say I would see the most of, only because my wife sends them to me all the time. But I think YouTube is more like if I need to do something and I need to learn how to do something, like it's a learning tool for me. Like I'll go on YouTube, I'll watch, like I got to fix my car, my sink is back to, like, that's where you go on YouTube and there's a million things you can learn to do.
I feel like YouTube also used to be like TikTok, where universally there was like a bunch of different age groups. I mean, it still might be that way today, but I feel like from what I'm seeing whenever I post a short, my comments are like, she's too young to be giving career advice and all this and that. And I'm like, how old are all these people? Like, how old do they think I am?
YouTube has got a huge, feel like YouTube is like all over the place though, just because like the amount of videos and like vlogs and, you know, blogs and whatever on it is, there's something for everyone on there. And that's why like, I don't even know if it's like a purely social media. That's like a content platform.
So one of the differences for me in business use is for TikTok, and this may be flawed, but our own firsthand experience really using these channels a lot over the past couple of years. You don't need to have a big following to have a viral video on TikTok. It's almost as if every video presents the same opportunity for virality and to really pick up pace, where I don't know that that's possible on YouTube. I think you have to almost have the following that you can build, the number of subscribers is much more of a factor on how well an individual video can do on YouTube. So from a business standpoint, I think TikTok, for that reason, is potentially very powerful for branding. But YouTube, it requires a bigger investment of time and effort, I think.
Well, it seems like YouTube is like you got to grind it out and get that audience. But once you have an audience, you know that each one of them is going to be, you know, get a certain amount. Whereas TikTok, it seems a little bit more hit or miss. Like you could put something and it's like nowhere near where you're expecting. So I guess starting out, it seems like TikTok is a better bang for your buck, but it's also a little bit more of a gamble than whereas YouTube, you have this whole built-in, you know, audience where.
I always tell friends who are just starting, like my one friend, for example, she sells health insurance. She's like, what's the quickest way to get people to notice me? And I always tell them, start with TikTok first. Just start pushing stuff out and eventually you'll get noticed. It's just the quickest and easiest way. Whereas YouTube, I feel like it takes time. It definitely takes patience. And it's more of like, it's not like I can just keep pumping out funny videos. It's more of like people are looking for instructional type, educational type videos.
Yeah.
It's more, there's more science, I think, involved in TikTok. And to solve it, it's not something you can do where, I'm sorry, with YouTube, where TikTok, I think you can get lucky. A lot of people have. I think you have to have a certain tone on TikTok to do well. So far, we see a lot of companies who aren't going to be comfortable with that, right? Who if you have a brand that isn't synonymous with fun or being edgy, you're going to struggle a little bit on TikTok. Where I think on YouTube that will play better, right? It's almost more serious, even though TikTok is a very fun app. I'm sorry, YouTube is also very fun. It's almost, TikTok's more of just a free for all. Is how I look at it.
And TikTok, I feel like viewers are okay with things being, I mean, they still get annoyed, but they're more okay towards advertising kind of videos. Whereas YouTube, I know, like, they do not like it when it's like you're creating a short that's more of like you're trying to sell something. They're kind of just like,
well, that's why I said content versus social. Like YouTube, you got to have the production quality to have a good like. Whereas TikTok, it's almost like you want it to be like look like it's filmed from your phone.
yeah,
It is filmed from your phone, but like it's got to have that like shaky, Blair Witch Project type like underground quality to it. Whereas on YouTube, like you want to have a polished looking video, and it's kind of obvious if you don't.
Now, weird thing, Instagram. So when we first started with Instagram, it was super slow. Like I'd be pumping out reels for every day. And it was just not getting the views that YouTube and TikTok would get. And now after like, I guess it's been 2 years of pumping it out, it's finally reaching like the numbers that I'm like, are kind of like YouTube, kind of like TikTok. And I'm like, what's going on with that, you know?
Well, they're all trying to infringe on each other's space.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how with YouTube, when they came out with shorts, that was really to counter TikTok, and that's what reels are. So there's a lot of crossover there. And what we've seen, of course, is a video that does well on one channel won't necessarily do as well on another channel. So is that luck? Is it timing? Is it happenstance? Or is it really just more science to it? And I tend to believe YouTube success doesn't happen by accident on these channels. And if you listen to the biggest YouTuber of all out there, Mr. Beast, talk about his process and his evolution, it's not coincidence that he's as successful as he is. He says things like, I won't produce a video unless we have the perfect thumbnail for it. Perfect.
It's
thumbnail.
crazy the amount of like effort that he goes in, that goes into those things to make it like, and a casual observer is like, oh, yeah, it looks good, but it's not like they put tons of effort or whatever into it. Just the amount of tweaking is like not understood by, I feel like, a lot of people who don't actually try to do it themselves. So
generationally, as a business tool, how do you view YouTube?
I think it's useful. It's a good educational tool. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I view it more so like as an educational tool. Like
what if you're trying to get yourself promoted? I feel like that's like if you're trying to get into content creation, say you're like, I want to be known as the person for whatever. That's where it gets a little bit more like when you're actually trying to like produce things and share things and get noticed. It's a little bit more. It's got a lot more reach, I think, to it. But like as an end user, it's really just like it's a good learning tool. So I would say it's not a learning tool. It's a content promotion tool if you're trying to actually like stand out, outside of your job, I guess.
It's like more like so showcasing your skills. Are you good at fixing computers. If so, that's your niche. On YouTube, you're going to be all about fixing computers, and people are going to go to you whenever they need to do that. If you're good at writing a resume, that's going to be your YouTube niche. People are going to go to you whenever they need to learn how to write a resume, pretty much. And I feel like that's how it all started.
People are going to do that on YouTube, something like I get fixing computers, but like, are there YouTubers who like do like you do? What do you do? A video of you writing? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, I so when I've made this comment before, but my youngest son is 15, and he will go on YouTube long before he goes on Google for anything. And so I see that transformation happening. I think businesses need to catch up and realize that young people want to watch videos more than to read content. And
that's a Gen Z thing, and younger for sure, because all the millennials I know are like, I don't want a video. I want a quick bullet point of things I can read through. Like, I don't want to have a guy talk to me for 10 minutes to try and learn something that I could skim read in 30 seconds.
And I think it's kind of our school's fault. Like, I remember in high school and college, like, our teachers would always pull up YouTube videos. And instead of them instructing us, we'd be instructed by this YouTube video. So then I kind of learned from that process. Okay, I'm home. I need to know how to do like this graphic design assignment. I YouTube it and see someone doing it versus just, I don't know, bullet points freak me out. I can't. I have to watch it.
Well, there's just so many applications for business that I had the benefit of finding a video the other day. We had a quote from our pool company to fix a part that they diagnosed, and they said the part was $250, and the service was going to be another $200. The total quote was well over $400, and I Googled the part and saw it, found it, and then saw what it was. Saw it on Amazon. It was a $15 part, and embedded in on the Amazon page was a YouTube video that showed how to install it. And I never would have taken that chance. I mean, I wouldn't have even considered taking apart pool equipment to try to do this installation without the video. And there's those things become, I don't know, seem to be increasingly common for me in my life, and I've become a bigger YouTube user over time for those reasons. And I see that just growing. It's so practical.
Even I got an oil change a couple weeks ago, and after the guy, and I think he was a millennial, after the guy changed my oil, he had to reset my Volkswagen. And I guess Volkswagen Tiguan's have like a different way of resetting compared to other cars. He literally pulls up a YouTube video in front of me and is learning from the YouTube video on how to do it, which I was like, wow, okay. So I guess everyone just pulls up YouTube whenever they need to.
Yeah, I mean, if it's doing a physical activity, that's where I draw. Like, I watch YouTube video. I mean, I've had the pleasure of fixing a bunch of things that have been broken on my cars recently. So I've done exactly those things. Now, resetting like an oil light, which I just happened to have done this weekend. That's a quick thing where it's like, press this button, do this. I'll look, that's a bullet point. I don't need to watch a video to show me how to do something that takes 5 seconds. But the actual, the act of, changing your oil, like I'll totally watch a video for that. I guess it's the level of instruction that I'm looking for.
I still don't think my generation is going to do that by default more often. Just like when I talk to people, they're not using ChatGPT either, who are my age. Why? I don't know. Habit, right? You have to, habits have to change and evolve, and no one's been in the habit of doing that for most of our lives.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because your generation is so used to just like doing things on your own and figuring it out on your own, because you guys didn't have like all the technology and resources that we have now that make it so easier for us. So like whenever my dad is trying to figure something out, he's like, no, like I'll just figure it out. I don't want to watch a video. And I feel like, again, it's just like that. Your generation's just like, again, just like we can figure it out on our own versus us where we're more dependent on it.
Yeah. I think I would rather have a person show me, but if I don't have a person there, the next best thing is a YouTube. And I feel like Gen Z has shifted even more to where like a person showing you is almost like less preferable to a video where you can just fast forward and skip them, the explanation that you don't care about.
So Michael, who in a previous comment said he's a boomer, so his words, not mine, is using YouTube It's like we said, it's education and entertainment. I think we put TikTok in that category too. It's a combination of both. What about Instagram? Peter, you mentioned that earlier.
Instagram is pure
Reels.
like I'll preface this by saying I know that there are influencers and people make money, but in my mind, Instagram is entertainment. Like that is a social media for entertainment. I know that as I'm saying this, I'm realizing like the more and more ads are creeping into it, and I'm very aware of it. So I know that it's becoming like a monetization source, but it was originally just sharing photos to show to your friends, and somewhere along the way it's turned into something else.
Yeah, I remember it was just aesthetic photos, just
now I don't even see that. Like it's like it used to be only the people that I follow and I would see my friends photos, and now it's like random stuff all the time, and 25% of my friends
the
photos.
Instagram shop trying to get
well from a business standpoint, if you look at the value of how many views you can get on social media versus historically what you've paid for on a TV commercial, for example, the value is immense for these social channels. So it'd be just our video earlier this year that had 31 million views and it's still going, by the way. It gets a couple thousand views each week. It's just growing indefinitely. You know how much you'd have to pay to get your brand recognized on TV for 31 million views? I looked up the number months ago. I forgot what it is, but it's a big number, way more expensive than you could do on a social channel.
I guess I have a pessimistic view of it, of how because everything is being so, colonized, for lack of a better word, your time. I saw some comedian, he was talking about this. He's like, we used to just, we would colonize land, and you would, now all the land is taken up. So like all the space in your life is now being taken up by companies. Like people are trying to fight for your attention, so that 24 hours of your day, you're, paying attention to some company or something like that. So I've got this kind of pessimistic view of Instagram specifically, because that was the one that I saw in real time turn from purely social to now it's like just, more of an advertising tool, I guess, than a social media tool. In my mind, it still is social media. But
sometimes I feel like it's even more of an advertising tool than anything else, because you don't see pictures of friends and family anymore. It's like, buy this shirt or just in at this store. Like it's literally just a bunch of ads and coupons now.
So I looked it up while we're talking. Super Bowl ad, this may not be accurate, but it's coming from Google. 100 million viewers roughly, and about 7 million for a 30-second commercial, right? Wow. So we had a third of those viewers. Actually, I think that video, we should have been able to generate a couple $1 million in advertising.
Also, keep in mind, that's not even production cost of making the actual video. That's just buying the time.
That's right. Yeah, which is, would double it probably. And so by comparison, advertising on social is cheap. So that's why I wanted to pull this up. TikTok, not for business. I would disagree with that. I think it from a branding perspective and generating that recognition, businesses would be foolish not to take advantage of that, provided you could attract the right audience. And that's why I wanted to put up the stats from earlier. Is we didn't generate any ad revenue off of this, but TikTok pushed our content to exactly who we intended with this meme. And Ashley, you probably didn't even put much thought into that when you were making it. You just thought it was funny and it was work related, right? And it was in truth and humor, but TikTok nailed it. And so businesses should pay attention to that.
I mean, the old thought that LinkedIn was it seems as the newer generations blend everything together, it's like, I would have probably said the same thing when it was originally coming out, but now as more and more people are like, they insist on using it for that. So that's what it becomes,
Even like take Duolingo, for example. I remember when their TikTok first started, they had like no viewers, and Duolingo wasn't that like big either. No one really knew about it. They started commenting on people's posts again, trying to get people to be like, what's Duolingo?
Yeah.
And they just built this whole brand, and now they have like so many followers. Everyone knows what it is. And it's kind of like pushing out to people that are trying to learn a new language or speak different languages. So it's like, I think it's very businessy.
Yeah, they've gone very heavy on TikTok with their branding.
Well, but the companies who've succeeded, I think, do the things you just mentioned. Actually, they break from the norms when it comes to how they're handling their interaction, engagement, advertising. One of the favorites that I always think of in this when this kind of thing comes up is Wendy's TikTok account. I'm sorry, a Twitter account, X account. We have to call it X now.
No, it's Twitter. It's never going to be X.
Whoever runs that account does it with humor, and they're not really worried about protecting their brand at any level. They're there to have fun, and they're there to interact and engage. And as a result, they have 3.8 million followers, which is crazy for a fast food restaurant to have on like, who cares about following a fast food account on social media, on X? Well, people follow because they're funny. They're engaging. I follow them.
I remember seeing like McDonald's arguing with another fast food restaurant, like in the comments section. I don't know why, something about just like McDonald's and this other fast food place arguing is so entertaining, but it makes you want to follow them to see what else they're up to.
This is, by the way, this is the true like cyberpunk future that we've got, is like you're following a company arguing with another company about whose hamburger is better for like entertainment for you. Like neither of these are like actual people, they're just entities. Like,
right. Well, and so that brings up a good question. We talk about this all the time internally because we have personal accounts and we have our company branded accounts. For us, that's Four Corner Resources, our staffing company, and ZenGig,
yep,
which is our career advice brand. Are you more or less prone to follow? That's one question. The second question is interact with or engage with a brand account versus an individual. So start with the first question. Would you follow, and then on which channels would you follow a brand account or would not follow a brand account?
I would interact with a person. It's just, I know that obviously there is a person who's posting on the Wendy's account or whatever, but like that's a brand. It's probably shared by multiple people. It's not one singular person where I'm going to interact with a person. I probably honestly wouldn't follow a corporate account unless they were giving me something that I viewed as like important or informational or whatever. I do follow some, so for example, I do follow some corporate accounts on Instagram that post like things, interesting products that I like. Like there's I spend a lot of time like gardening and there's a brand that they do seeds. That's their whole thing, is the rare and heirloom seeds. And they post like, oh, we're growing this, and they do interesting videos. And I follow that. That's a company. I know that, but they post stuff that I view that I can get use out of. So
I feel like I would, maybe it's just a Gen Z thing, or maybe it's just a me thing. I would follow more like businesses and companies versus people, because I feel like even though I know there's real people behind the businesses, I feel like when you're interacting with like people, it's like more sensitive, like more.
I feel like you would care more about the tone than the actual like account. Like it's the tone of how they interact, like the content they push.
And I feel like when it's like a business account, it's like, oh my God, like they notice me, like let's just say McDonald's comments back and likes your comment. You're like, oh my God, McDonald's liked my comment.
McDonald's noticed me.
I know, like this one couple commented, I forget what brand it was. Let's just say it was Olive Garden. Commented on one of their posts saying like, oh, like we're sending you an invitation to our wedding, blah, blah, blah. And like they got free Olive Garden to their wedding. So it's like, you never know what you're dealing with. It's like,
I'm just trying to get free Olive Garden. I'm out here. That's why I follow these companies.
But I wouldn't think to interact with the brand because for what you just said, I don't know. I don't know if that's a team of 20 people that operate in shifts. I don't know if it's automated. I don't know if it's outsourced. I don't know who's behind that. And so the thought of engaging with a brand to me is odd, right? Where engaging with a person, that I'd be more prone to do that, but maybe that is a generational thing. So what you're saying is, does it matter by channel or by account? Would you look at it differently on Instagram versus Facebook or TikTok or YouTube?
Facebook, I'm not going to interact with it. Facebook is, I'll go to my grave believing that's supposed to be for people. I'm not going to go follow a company's Facebook. I would consider it on, Instagram, definitely LinkedIn, obviously. YouTube is kind of an in between. So if they're providing content, I'll go there. And TikTok, I guess I would throw in the same as Instagram. Although the Olive Garden thing is great. I didn't even think about that. And I totally know people who get like free things from like companies reaching out to them. So I
feel like I would still just be comfortable with just commenting on companies' things versus just people, because people can be really mean and cruel. And companies,
So you think a company's
there's
safe?
a company, they have to be nice to you. They can only
they can be sassy and be like funny as like and sarcastic, but like they can't really show their true opinion, even though you're giving your.
I don't know. Ask Wendy's account to roast you. You might feel differently. They'll do it. So that is an interesting perspective to me, is because I wonder if that is generational, where you place more, I'll say, trust in the brand itself, where I just go, I don't. It's just an entity, right? It doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. I don't think of the people behind it, because I think it's all, anything they say and do is for a business purpose, right? Where an individual, it's gonna be more raw, more real. And I guess I consider that to be more meaningful of an interaction. But Peter, you said Facebook shouldn't be that. Facebook is huge for business to consumer marketing. You go a place, sign up, follow us on Facebook, and you get a 50% discount.
Yeah, I mean, companies are doing that to try and force you to, for lack of a better word, to follow them. Like, do this because there's an incentive in it for you. Like, I will say that I don't even really use Facebook anymore. So like, Facebook has become the boomer thing. Like, that's once my parents got on Facebook and they stopped requiring you to have a college address, it wasn't cool anymore. So I've moved on in my life, like a lot of millennials, I feel like. But it was at one point, it was supposed to be like, your friends are on there and you can see pictures from your friends. I know that there are businesses and stuff on it. It doesn't feel the same to me.
Sometimes I'm still like, why are people from high school following me on Facebook? How are they still using this? Like, why? And I'm shocked that.
You say as we're on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. Like, I fully realize that.
Sometimes I feel like, okay, is it going to make a comeback? Because like, you can really get more information compared to Instagram. I mean, you can put where you're working in your Instagram bio, but it looks weird. Whereas Facebook could be like, I'm working here. And then that could be a connection. If you could be like reaching out to this person in a way, be like, hey, like we went to high school together. I saw that you work at this place. Are they hiring, kind of thing? So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I see some high school people more and more using it.
Do you guys feel like, I mean, Facebook was, like you said, someone who went from high school. Facebook is supposed to be, isn't it, like people that you know? Like, whereas LinkedIn, for example, is like, I don't know almost all of my LinkedIn, connections personally.
Well, so it's blended, right? So Facebook's still the 800-pound gorilla. Facebook has over 3 billion users.
Yep.
YouTube's next, as far as subscribers go. But then LinkedIn is what just passed 1 billion, I think. Yeah, so LinkedIn's catching up. We think of LinkedIn historically or traditionally as a business site, but that's changing a lot now too. I think everyone agrees LinkedIn's for business. Half the audience probably agrees or thinks that LinkedIn is as much for personal now as it is anything else. I mean, you don't have to spend very much time there to see a lot of personal stories being told.
Yeah. LinkedIn is the place where I feel like everyone's migrating to. And in some ways it's good. I love seeing, people actually sharing advice, but in some ways it's bad. Like I get so many like just fake self-aggrandizing like things on there. People telling stories that I know are not real, that are exaggerated. Like I'm the best, I'm a AI guru and thought ninja or whatever. Like if I see one more of those things in someone's bio, I'm going to lose it. At least on Facebook, like they're who they
AI
are.
Content creation. And my favorite are the resume writers who have a story every day that is equal parts unbelievable, and fascinating and heroic. And I don't believe it for a second.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. The real interactions when you're like, I know a person actually typed this to me, as opposed to like somebody who's like so out of touch with things that they're posting these like fake stories. I can help you get 70 clients this week because of my 17-step program that I totally invented and didn't steal from another person's post. Like the ones where it's just a comment of someone telling, some advice or something. I feel like those are good. So LinkedIn's in a kind of weird stage for me right now.
I feel like it's definitely also like a big resources tool. Like whenever I need to search up a business and find their contact info, so then I can reach out to them and ask them like, hey, like, would you like to promote this? Like that's the place to find it, because sometimes you can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah, being able to see who works there and what
Mhm.
they're kind of back. Say you're like, I want this job, and you can find someone at that company who has that job. You can see what their background is. I really like that, being able to see someone's actual resume.
Yeah, and
able to kind of model stuff after.
you can even ask them like, hey, how are you liking your position
Yeah.
at this company? Like, what's your favorite thing about this company? What's your least favorite? Like, I'm looking to apply, but I'm not sure yet.
That's the value in LinkedIn. to
Yeah.
me.
How do you feel about interacting with brand accounts, company accounts on LinkedIn versus other channels? Because everything you guys were talking about now is
I would not.
interacting with individuals.
I would feel too nervous. I don't know.
So it's the
because-
opposite. Wait, so you have to break it down by channel. So some channels you would be okay. By default, you'd want to interact with the brand, and others you don't want to.
all other channels, I would be okay with interacting with the brand, but LinkedIn, because
that's
it's
really you.
like-
You can't hide behind it's like here I am. Here's my job
here's my
I work
LinkedIn
at.
page. Yeah, like if let's say I ever wanted to work for them, like I don't know, you have to be careful. I feel like
I feel like working on like comments on LinkedIn, you're not actually interacting with a brand. You comment it for the other people to comment. It's like a bulletin board. You're just putting your thing out there, and then other people are commenting and liking yours. Like I'm not expecting Nike to comment back if I comment on a post by Nike. It's gonna be
to Carrie's point here, and Carrie is fellow Gen Xer. I know is she's used brings up contacting the brands on Twitter when you need support. I'm a big fan of that too. I've only done it a few times out of desperation or frustration, and boy, do you get a quick response. So a little PSA for anyone who hasn't tried that before.
Calling out companies publicly is a good way to get their attention.
Reach out to them on Twitter if you want to get immediate attention. But I'm curious, fascinated by the way you guys responded to this. The same person who's managing the LinkedIn account for a brand or making the post, odds are is the person who's doing the same on Twitter, X, Instagram, but yet you feel your perspective is very different on your willingness to engage with them.
It feels more serious, I guess. That's
Yeah.
what
LinkedIn does.
LinkedIn, yes.
I think
LinkedIn
Twitter's way more terrifying than like LinkedIn is. People
Twitter, you can just
their-
put whatever
their-
out there. Like Twitter is like unhinged. Like you just say whatever on Twitter.
Right, but Twitter escalates really fast. Where LinkedIn, people are reserved to some degree because they know it's a professional network, and that could ruin their professional reputation. Where on Twitter, it's more anonymous, and maybe because LinkedIn's not anonymous, I think that holds people accountable, keeps them in check. Where Twitter is a wild west, and like Twitter, people are ruthless.
Although LinkedIn, I've seen some it's like weird passive aggressive. Like you can get in arguments, but you're like getting in an argument with someone in the office. So everything is like done in really professional language, but you can tell what the subtext of what they're saying is.
So I feel like if let's just say you're looking for a job and you really want to work for this certain brand, maybe commenting is also the way to go, because it's also getting the brand to notice you and be like, who is this individual speaking their minds? Like, I like what they're saying, and then just trying to connect with them kind of thing.
So Edward, if you're on still targeting the demographic by platform, so how would you break that down? Because that's really what we're talking about today more than anything else. It started with my surprise, if you haven't been with us from the beginning, that a recent viral video we have on TikTok over the past couple of days is targeting predominantly males, 85%, and about 70% of the audience, 80% of the audience, I'm looking at now, is between 25 and 44. So not kids, for sure. And to me, that sort of breaks the mold with this idea that TikTok is not a business platform, is not something you can target an older demographic with. I think the opposite is true. And I see TikTok is much more wide open to access that demographic quickly.
There's tons of, I think, of like stuff like that you can, I mean, I would even say that LinkedIn is kind of, or not LinkedIn, Instagram is getting there too, like where stuff is like hyper focused to specific demographics. If I watch one type of video, not even like if I'm scrolling down, I click on a video, not really paying attention. I'm like, oh, what's that? Okay, scroll. I will notice that same type will now populate the types of things that I will see. And it's just a feedback loop. And I have to assume that TikTok is very similar. Like you watch one Star Wars thing, all of a sudden you're getting a bunch of Star Wars memes or Star Wars stuff.
I feel like TikTok is for business. Like,
do you mean for a business person, or like, are you from an employer or like advertising, or like as a user to go?
As a user as well. So I feel like if you're a user and you want to connect with the recruiter, there's the recruiter community. Obviously, they're going to look at your TikTok page. So you just have to make sure that everything's appropriate enough for them to look at. But you can DM them and like try to get their contact info, try to build a relationship with them through TikTok. I've seen, I don't know what's the deal with this, but I've seen people be like, are you tired of working a 9 to 5 and going into an office? Like, DM me, I can tell you can work from home, work with me kind of thing. And I'm like,
do you worry about the legitimacy of those, where one of the things I like about LinkedIn is I know exactly who I'm communicating with.
mm-hmm.
And you look at all the other channels, and I use my real name on every social account that I have, which means a couple of things. I'm accountable. I also have to be careful about what I would otherwise, about getting into a conversation, debate, argument with an anonymous person. That's just a no-win situation for someone using their real account, real name. But I think that when I see anonymous users, there's no way I'd trust them with money, with advice that's meaningful. I wouldn't engage with them.
It doesn't even have to be like anonymous users. It's more so like, let's just say there was this TikTok strategist that, she offers her business to people. She like, tries to get companies to work with her and if they need a strategy, and she posts tips and advice. And I, followed her, sent her a DM. I got a DM back and I was like, oh my God, this strategist is like talking to me and she's like a big deal. And it ended up being like someone impersonating her in a different account.
Mm.
So it's like, sometimes you just have to be careful because you don't know what's real or what's not. Like it looks real, but then if you go look back, it's just a profile copied. And like the whole spelling is off and everything. So
yeah,
I mean,
that's why I feel like people are like, well, TikTok's not,
it could,
professional, because it's so easy. It is Wild West out there. Like it could be great, but it's a little bit more high risk, high reward. Like you do it right, you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But it also, if you do it wrong, you can like lose legitimacy. You can be impersonated, all sorts of things like that.
I mean, this girl is still, handing out her business, putting it out there, and people are partnering with her. But you just have to make sure, like, if she DMs you, it's actually her and not her fake profile that someone created to try and get money. So
one other social media that we haven't mentioned that I did want to just quickly bring up, because I know Pete uses it as well as I do, Reddit. How do you feel like that? Is that something that someone can go on? I mean, that is really an area that I feel like as a user, you can get a lot of advice. You can get in touch with your recruiters. We just use that example. Like there's entire subreddits about that, where if you've got a question, you can post your question and you'll get tons of answers and direct people that you can talk to on there. I feel like that's a really like underutilized one, particularly if you're trying to make connections or get advice.
Yeah. If I were starting over today selling, which is what I did for most of my career, I would start with social media. And of course, LinkedIn makes it so easy to connect with people where they want to be connected with. Not everyone is a big user of it, but those who are, you'd be crazy not to take advantage of that. Yeah. But then go down the line of the other channels. If I'm trying to get a hold of a prospect or engage them in the way they want to be communicated with, I'm going to look them up on every social channel.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? And I'll learn what their hobbies are. Like you said, Peter, gardening is important to you. Well, if I connected with you on LinkedIn and on Instagram and saw that you were into gardening, I approach you from a sales standpoint. That is great insight to know. All right.
Yeah.
It sounds a little creepy, but if you put that out publicly and you use your real name, then shame on me if I don't look it up and try to get that information. So on Reddit, I don't know what percentage of people use their actual names. I know there's a lot of brand accounts. We have our brand account there, but we have to be real careful with Reddit because you get called out quickly if Reddit doesn't want you selling to it, right? They don't want you to be just out there to be self-serving. Reddit's a community of
There's tons of
helping
ads on it though now, so
there is, but you got to give before you try to get anything back, right?
Exactly.
Like Reddit will turn on you quickly if you don't.
I remember I posted I think it was a TikTok video, just like how to create this resume. Oof, they were not happy. They were just like, who is this? Like, where is this advice coming from? Like, this is not legit. Go back.
Well, we were a new brand at the time, right? We didn't have longevity. We hadn't earned it. And Reddit has its own set of rules. And I think every social channel does. And that's the hard part and what I consider to be the fascinating part, where you could pick any channel, and if you dedicate your time and effort into really understanding it, and I will go back to Mr. Beast, if listen to one of his interviews on a podcast that he's done recently, Lex Friedman or Joe Rogan, they're great interviews with him. This guy spent 10 years honing his craft, 10 years of trial and error, working around the clock. I mean, it's a wonderful success story where most people hear the name and go, Mr. Beast, that sounds silly. Or this guy's just a YouTuber. This guy worked his butt off for perfecting this. I would say
he is the YouTuber,
right? But he's incredibly successful and has earned it because he's studied it so much. And Peter, I think Reddit is the same thing, where you could make a strong case for that your entire marketing effort being around Reddit, and companies could do that. And I would venture to say they'd be extremely successful as a result.
Particularly if you give a service or you're in a specific niche, because there's probably a subreddit, which is a group that's dedicated to that. So if you're doing your due diligence and you're giving out advice and you're being helpful, and that's going to reward you. And I think that's, like you said, that's across any social medias. That's where people go wrong, is if they're trying to just get stuff. Like, it's a give and take. You got to give as much as you can, and then you will reap those rewards.
So I view Reddit as the millennial channel.
I would say that's probably true.
Like, I don't think my younger children get on Reddit at all, right? Who are still in high school. I don't think most people I think people my age are more prone to be on Reddit than Gen Z. But it is the millennial app.
I mean, it's obviously huge, and it's but I mean, the people I've interacted with I've interacted with people, in their early 20s. I've interacted with people who are on there who are like, believe it or not, I'm in, my 60s or even 70s on there. So I think it's kind of like anything. There's going to be people across the board. I would say probably the largest audience though is going to be, I'm going to say around 30 years old, because that's like peak millennial time right now.
So if you're on with us, if you're still hanging, let us know what channels you use. Do you use them for business? Do you think there's a difference by generation? I think there is. And I also think the main theme that I would take away from any conversation like this is each channel has its own vibe and has to be approached in a unique way. It's not a one size fits all, which we learned the hard way, quite frankly. We started our marketing journey so focused on our website and creating content for with that purpose in mind, and then just posting it to other channels. It wasn't until we started to really investigate why content would resonate on one channel or not. Something as simple as LinkedIn. I think everyone knows at this point now, if you post a link in the body of the comment, LinkedIn's not going to promote it as much because it takes you off their site if you click on that link. So just by making that little switch, we've had a lot more engagement. We're still figuring it out, but there's each channel has its own method.
Yeah, if you're following people on there and you're seeing this, like nothing is as particularly at higher levels is done by accident. Like they're doing things in a specific way because of X's algorithm or Twitter's or LinkedIn's algorithm, whatever. Those things are done very mindfully. And I think that's as a person who's trying to get better, if someone is trying to like build their their professional profile, that's something they have to take into account. Is like you can't just post whatever and expect it to get you an audience. You gotta play the game.
We got to put in the time.
Yep.
No doubt. All right, so our comments have started to dry up, I guess. Ashley, I don't know if we've chased everyone off, if we've covered the subject enough. If you're still with us, let us know. We'll take some questions if you have any. Otherwise,
People are going home to go on their Twitters and their Instagrams and stuff, and use social media for personal instead of business now.
By the way, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to call it X. It just sounds weird.
I'm not. Watch it eventually. It's going to go back to Twitter because, like I said, it
doesn't flow.
It doesn't, and it's they had such a great branding. Like everybody knows what Twitter is. The word tweet like is a thing. Like what are they called? X's now.
Well, they can't. As much as even though Elon is and the channel itself have so much. They're so dominant in what they do. You don't get to own a letter like the X. It's still just a letter that belongs to the alphabet.
It's part of our title here. We got copyright infringement, Gen X.
Let me know why Instagram decided to create its own Twitter Threads. I feel like you don't hear anything about it.
Is that a separate platform?
I have that. I have a Threads account that I don't know that I've ever been on.
They they're like make it for you because I got a notification. It's like you're on Threads now, and I'm like, no, I'm not.
I just last night. It's having nothing to do with this conversation. I clicked on what looked to be like an odd at something on an Instagram account that I was on Instagram, and it opened Threads for me, and I had a feed. I'm like, what? How do I have this feed? Where's this coming from?
Yeah,
very odd.
They're going heavily on those things. I'm like, you already have Facebook, which has statuses. Trying to make a third thing that's like the same.
There's no way that they can't be succeeding, right? Like no chance.
You never hear about it. I never hear someone be like, go look at this thread or let me send you this. Like, it's just, I completely forgot about it, to be honest.
Someone says thread, I think of either a Reddit thread or a Slack thread.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Clapper, Ashley. We can't.
Clapper. So I think it was
Clapper. I can't.
It was about like a year ago. I was like scared that TikTok was going to go away. So I was like, what's the next closest thing? And on Google, it came up. It was like Clapper. But
they're like, you remember that commercial where the old lady would clap and her light would turn on and off? Let's make a social media named after that.
But it's more so for like Gen X and boomers. Gen Z and millennials still go on there and use it to get noticed, but it's a lot of like, I don't know. It's like a creepy crowd. It's a weird crowd. It's a creepy
1,000 followers on Clapper. So
clap on, clap off.
It's a weird crowd though. Like, I don't know. Definitely not like TikTok.
All right. So 5 years from now, last thing, and then we'll say goodbye. What do you think the biggest channel will be?
TikTok.
LinkedIn Talk, since they seem to be merging together. It's just going to be one giant like platform that has like one account across all of them. I think TikTok will probably be TikTok and Instagram are going to be like the two biggest.
Twitter's trying. Did you see Twitter has a job feed now?
Yeah.
No, stay in your lane. No one, and it just is a feed of job. Like it's.
Yeah, with Twitter's changes there, I feel like they're kind of becoming more and more niche. They're not like as prominent as they used to be.
I could see TikTok getting a job feed.
Oh, I hope not.
So
we have too many. We don't need
more.
We
don't need any more job feed. Everyone's trying to have job feeds.
By the way,
Indeed's gonna
here's a little secret. It's all the same feed.
Yeah,
we have it on ZenGig. It's API feeds. Everyone has the same one. It's not special. You can go to our feed and see 7 million jobs Same 7 million you see on Twitter, I suspect. So yeah,
The
don't
Google
buy into
Jobs
that.
API
And if
on
you're-
the back end, like,
and we
yeah,
probably need to write a blog article about that, honestly, because if you're a job seeker, you don't know this. You don't know that feed is the same as this one, and you could waste a lot of time. So you need one aggregated feed, which is what we have on ZenGig. Sign up for email alerts that way, and you will not even have to go back to it. You'll have daily jobs mailed to your
What's nice, it
mailed to
pulls
your
from,
inbox.
pulls from the company sites, pulls from LinkedIn, pulls from all the different areas, because that's, yeah, they're all very, sharing data. So
Yeah, we need a better system. So that's my hope for 5 years from now, is that we have a better system for all this stuff. Maybe just uniplatform, maybe
Yeah.
I don't think so. All right, you guys. I think that's it for today then. Everyone
Yeah.
who's been listening, thanks for joining us, and see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.